Go.
So after the draft, where did the 49ers get better the most after the draft? So based off of the draft, where do you think the 49ers just got better the most? And I don't think that's proper English, but whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
Like, the obvious choice is Drake. Sorry, not Drake Jackson, but the edge position, because they got the best player that they got in the entire draft was Drake Jackson. And
Mhm.
so obviously the position that you can allude to is the edge. But to me, I'll go with a different place, and I'll say offensive line. And the reason is the offensive line many people thought was a weak spot. Oh, we don't know who our future center is. We don't know where we have uncertainty at every position but Trent Williams. And what do the 49ers do? They went and got versatile players and multiple players that could play center in 2022 itself, but also for the future. I think they solidified this room, and now there are going to be battles. Whereas you thought there might be 8 people lined up to play for the 49ers in 2022. No, we have like 9, 10 guys, and all of them can compete for those 8 roster spots. And so right now, I think the locks in a way are Trent Williams and Aaron Banks. Those are the 2 locks that I think will start on the offensive line, because we don't necessarily know how Mike McGlinchey is, although I do believe him as like a 75% chance because he's expected to come back. But at the
If
center
healthy, he's a lock, right? If healthy,
yeah.
he's a
If
lock.
healthy, okay, that's a better way to put it. If healthy, he's a lock. Yes, if healthy, he's a lock. So when we look at it now, I think that they've just improved by adding more depth. Edge position, the reason I'm not going to go with it is because we already had a ton of depth. Wide receiver, I thought we had 4 pretty talented wide receivers alongside special teams players, so we had a ton of depth there. I think offensive line was the place where we were lacking the most depth, with a quick run or with a good runner up being the secondary, I think. But the secondary to me has 2 pretty strong pieces in Mosley, Charvarius Ward. Sorry, 3: Mosley, Charvarius Ward, and obviously Jimmy Ward. While the offensive line had necessarily really one really strong piece with Trent Williams. Additionally, I don't think the 49ers improved at the safety position at all in the draft. And so that's where I'm going to ding them a bit on the secondary portion and go offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you. I think that the 49ers are basically giving us what their game plan is going to be next season, and it's going to be power running. They got big running backs. They got big offensive linemen to come in and compete, and I think they're just going to punish. I think that's what the game plan is going to be. Punish the opposing team, gash them for, 4 to 5 yards per carry. And then third and fourth quarter, you're going to start seeing those 3 and 4 and 5 yard gains turn into 10, 15, 20 yard gains, much like the 2019 49ers that made it to the Super Bowl. But the added dynamic is going to be obviously Trey Lance's arm with his ability to stretch the field. And I think that play action is just going to be extremely nasty. James Coombs, we've both been preaching O-line this offseason. How do you feel about it after the draft now? It's a great question, James. For me personally, I'm a big fan. The guys that I consistently put in my mock drafts were Donovan West and James Poe. And both of those guys ended up being undrafted free agents, which is just amazing and mind-boggling to me. So the other guys that they got on the offensive line, they weren't even on my radar. So I know, Rohan, you said you had heard of them before, but I'm a big fan of what they did. I don't think like I said, it's depth over premium talent. Obviously, for me, I was a big Tyler Linderbaum fan. They ended up obviously not being able to pick him because he went 25th in the first round. Like I told people he was going to go. But yeah, I mean, I think they did as good as they could with the picks that they had. And I think we're going to see we're going to see 2 or 3 offensive linemen from this draft, whether it be the actual draft or the undrafted free agents, that I think are going to be productive players, either starters or guys that come back up and play big roles in keeping the offensive line healthy.
Yeah, that's fair. Definitely fair.
Cool. Well, let's keep it going. So obviously, we don't know who's playing what position quite yet, but for the most part, we do know that this is the talent pool that the 49ers are going to be selecting from when it comes to narrowing it down to that 53-man roster. So based off of what you're seeing as far as the talent pool that the 49ers have, does this team have enough talent, Rohan, to win a Super Bowl?
Right. So for me, how I classify Super Bowl contenders in a way are really the top 3 to 4 teams in each conference. And to me, I'll say this. I'll be a little safe, but I'll say this. The 49ers classify as one of those top 3 to 4 teams in the conference, in my opinion, at the moment. I think the Buccaneers and the Rams are the solidified top 2 teams, with the 49ers at third right now in the conference, with teams like the Green Bay Packers, Dallas Cowboys, Arizona Cardinals inching in behind those top 3 teams to compete there in the NFC. And so, really, from my criteria, I'd say yes. But obviously, it's a question that we can't really answer at the moment. We saw how the Super Bowl aspirations, in a way, took a huge hit in Week 1 when Jason Verrett, our Pro Bowl level, near Pro Bowl level cornerback, got a ACL tear in Week 1 at the end of the game that significantly harmed our chances. And while we went to the NFC Championship last year, who knows if Barrett's healthy, right? So obviously injuries, especially with this team, play a huge role. But what I'll say is the 49ers right now are a top 3 team in the NFC, or sorry, not top 3, top 4 team in the entirety of the NFC. And so, yeah, I think that with that, they are in somewhat of a contention to at least compete for a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you're being pretty conservative, as you should be. But for me, I look at it like, did this team get better? And I think hands down, this is a better team, better roster than it was last season. And this team was, a couple plays away from another Super Bowl visit. And I think the positions that they were weaker at, they got a lot better at. Obviously, you can nitpick here. Maybe the offensive line isn't going to be as good. Maybe the safety play isn't going to be as good. But cornerback, much better. Special teams, much better. Defensive line, just as good, if not better. Linebacking core, I think, is going to be better because now you got Azeez, Greenlaw, and Warner all healthy. That's going to be probably the best linebacking core in the league. And then you got, Trey Lance, which is out, I guess the wild card. If he is as good as we think he could be, this team is probably the best team in the NFC if he plays to the level that we think he is. If he plays average, this team is a top 3 team in the NFC. So when you're looking at that, I think that this team is definitely good enough to win a Super Bowl. They've been contenders in 2 out of the last 3 years. Their only Achilles heel has been quarterback play, and I think that they've solidified that with Trey Lance. So yeah, barring just a freak injury to the starting quarterback, I think that this team is in contention and should be a Super Bowl contender. And another reason why I say that is I don't think the Rams are better than they were last season. They've lost a lot of good talent at key positions. And, Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, obviously everybody's waiting for him to fall off the cliff, but eventually Father Time is going to take a hold of him, and he's not going to be able to perform the way that he's performed. Green Bay lost their best offensive weapon, so there's a lot of teams that are usually the cream of the NFC that have a lot of question marks. And I think that the 49ers' biggest question mark is going to be Trey Lance. And I just feel confident that he's going to be really good this year and good enough to carry this team to be competitive. And so I think that they are Super Bowl contenders for sure, man. No hesitation.
That's your opinion. I mean, it's fair given what you said. I can understand it, and I can definitely see it happening if that's any consolation.
I love it, Rohan. Hey, anytime you agree with me or give me a pat on the back, man, it makes me feel good.